Here tonight. Awesome. We are in week 4 of our 5 languages of love discipleship series. Has anyone learned anything in these last couple of weeks? I know that has anyone been practicing these last couple of weeks? You all noticed the level of excitement change? The first one's like, yes, we've learned a lot. Have you been practicing? Yeah. It's hard. It is. Is anyone having a difficulty like actually practicing? And be honest. I mean, sometimes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Definitely. Well, this week we're going to be covering the love language number 4, which is physical touch, which is my personal favorite. This is my area of expertise per se. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to do a quick prayer, and then I'm going to allow my wife to kind of kick off this evening. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the magnificent blessing it is to be here. We thank you, Father, for everything that you've been showing us through this information. And it is our prayer, God, that as you've been communicating these last weeks, you continue to speak to us deep, profoundly into our hearts. Show us the things that we need to change. Show us the things that we need to continue doing. Show us, Lord, lead us so that we can be active and effective representations of your love on earth to all of those around us. In the name of Jesus, we all say amen and amen. Honey?
Ok, ¿estamos listos? Si gustas ponerte en la página en español, sería la página 24 y en inglés sería la página 21. Estamos viendo el lenguaje de amor número 4, el toque físico, physical touch. Para muchos ustedes saben que ese es lo que les gusta, lo que saben que es, pero a veces es necesario comprender qué significa. Porque a veces pensamos que solo se da en parejas o solo se da de padres a hijos, pero no podemos ver la importancia que a veces un toque puede provocar a otra persona. Un toque correcto me refiero, un toque saludable, un toque de amor. ¿Ok? Entonces empecemos por definir lo que significa el lenguaje de amor. Sabemos que el contacto físico es una forma de comunicar el amor emocional. Como cuando a veces nuestro pastor dice, ay, que sientes las cosquillitas en la piel, ¿verdad? Que lo espiritual no se siente cosquillitas en la piel. Pero aquí estamos hablando del área almática del ser humano, del área emocional, del área que siente el cuerpo, ¿verdad? Entonces, este es un área de amor emocional, ¿ok? Numerosos proyectos de investigación en el área del desarrollo infantil han llegado a la conclusión de que los bebés que son cargados, acariciados y besados desarrollan una vida emocional más saludable que aquellos que se les dan, que se quedan sin contacto físico durante largos periodos de tiempo. Yo quiero contar un testimonio que yo aprendí de una persona que fue misionera en China. Y esta persona venía trayendo este testimonio, ya tenía años viviendo en China. Ella fue un día allá a un verano, pero se encontró con una realidad que nunca esperaba, que Dios le iba a llamar para estar ahí como una madre para muchos niños huérfanos. Entonces, en la primera vez que ella fue a un orfanato chino, se dio cuenta lo desgarrador que era. Porque allá, como ustedes saben, no son pro familia y normalmente invitan a las familias, a tener solamente un hijo y de preferencia que sea hombre, que no sea mujer. Muchas veces si saben que es mujer, las llevan a que se aborte el bebé. Otros que pues nace el bebé, entonces los llevan a orfanatos. Y se encontró con algo horripilante. Los orfanatos no son como lo tenemos pensado como Big Heart en Reynosa. Son cientos de cunas y los bebés dice que los tenían amarrados para que no se voltearan. Y entonces la teta tenía un aparato que se lo daban, no le daban al bebé, se la ponían y solito le daba, solito se acababa. Dice que había niños que no les cambiaban el pañal en todo el día, a veces días sin cambiarlo, y era una cosa horripilante. El testimonio que ella dio es que a veces tuvo el privilegio, no sé si el privilegio, ¿verdad?, de conocer personas que salieron de ahí y eran personas que finalmente al final eran suicidas. Entonces, ahí vemos el gran impacto que tiene una persona que no recibe desde la infancia un toque, que no recibe desde la infancia palabras de afirmación, alguien que te promueva seguridad, alguien que te promueva firmeza. Eso estoy hablando de un caso extremo. Existen tú y yo que a veces crecemos en familias que son muy apapachonas y otras familias que literalmente no te me acerques, me hablas de lejitos y nada más de usted. Ha habido gente que, no usted por falta de respeto, sino que no hay una conexión de padre a hijo y no hay ese lazo, ese vínculo de que yo pude decir, mi papá me abrazó, mi mamá me abrazó. Este tipo de persona es la persona que a veces crece emocionalmente no saludable, enferma emocionalmente. Más si esta persona tiene el lenguaje de amor de physical touch. Entonces, sigamos en el párrafo 2 y dice, el contacto físico también es un vehículo poderoso para comunicar el amor relacional tanto en los confines del matrimonio como en las relaciones básicas, padre a hijo, madre a hija, hermanos, amigos, etc. Tomarse de la mano, besar, abrazar, hacer cosquillas, jugar a pelear, tener relaciones sexuales, son algunas formas de comunicar el amor a través del contacto físico dentro del matrimonio. Los abrazos, los besos en la mejilla, en la frente, colocar el brazo alrededor de los hombros de alguien, chocar los hincos o palmada en la espalda, o chocar puño también pueden ser ejemplos de cómo expresar amor a través del contacto físico en las relaciones básicas. Y se puede aplicar también en el matrimonio. Claro que a tu esposo no le vas a hacer así, ¿verdad? Pero si tú es tu saludo especial, I guess. Digo, cada quien tiene un saludo especial. Vamos a seguir con el párrafo número 3 que va a ser Pastor Kevin que lo va a explicar.
So with physical touch, and I have a lot that I would love to be able to share, but time restraints and just not having enough time to actually do it. But I'd love to just share some really important insights in regards to this section of physical touch. When you as a person and your love language is physical touch, meaning that you receive love when somebody makes that physical connection, okay? We have to understand that that physical connection, that touch, says everything, whether good or bad, whether it demonstrates love or it demonstrates hostility. And often as we grow and we develop in our ability to show love, we often forget that physical touch is a manner of expressing love. Because physical touch, I'm sure everyone's first mind went to sex. Oh, physical touch means sex, right? Yeah, because you're touching intimately and you're doing all of these things. But it's so much more important than just sex, with obviously within the confines of marriage. One of the things that I have discovered with physical touch is that it's a lot more than just a neurological connection. Because if you notice, your hands are very sensitive. When you touch something hot, you react. When you touch something cold, you react. When somebody speaks to you, you are touched. Where? In your heart or your emotions. Physical touch transcends the levels of physical, even though it's a vessel that is being used to show love. But when somebody, when they pray for you, you are, what do they say? And you feel the Spirit. What do they describe that as? You're touched by what? The Spirit. So the whole touch factor, when God created man, He touched the earth. Touch is so important in relationships. Everyone say that. Touch is crucial in my relationships. And today is going to be a little bit more off the script, meaning I'm not going to read so much off of this, because there's a couple of exercises that I want us to practice within the 3 levels of physical touch that you're going to discover that just because you are a physical touch person, there are 3 basic levels of physical touch that I like to use. Okay? So I'm going to read a couple of more things, discuss a couple of more things, and then we will go into those sections. But our purpose is not to just understand the neurological aspect of physical touch, though it is important to know that area, but we also have to clearly understand the psychological importance of physical touch. For example, come here, honey. If I have my wife here and you're all looking at me, if I hug her, what do you think I'm communicating? Love. What else? Talk to me. Care, love, protection, peace, security, calming, all those things. Great. Okay. Let's stay here. So if I have my wife and I just slap her, am I communicating love? But I'm touching her. Oh, so the type of touch matters. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some times where I'm playing around with my wife and I give her one of these. Right? Now, is that love? But her response, was it love for her? Now, and again, this is an example within our marriage. I'm a very touchy person. I can often be a little bit aggressive with my touches. You can ask Brian. So in my relationship with my wife, often when I want to show her love in my manner, I squeeze her, and I'll squeeze her very tightly. And she'll often tell me, stop, stop, stop. Now, I'm not trying to harm her. But the psychological aspect of the physical touch, there is a disconnect between my psyche and her psyche. You follow me in that? Her psychology tells her that for her to receive love through touch, it has to be gentle, soft. It's a specific area. My psyche tells me that if I want to receive love, squeeze me, embrace me, hold me tight. So what tends to happen? My psychology tells me, because that's how I receive it, that's how I need to give it. Now, does it mean that I have never embraced my hug tightly, my wife tightly, and she's always hated it? No. There's times where she wants that level of touch. But most of the time, she just wants the gentle, comforting touch because, again, it's her psychology. And all of us have a specific level of love through physical touch that we in our emotions depend on. Everyone say depend on. Because on the last page in the English one, and page 21, and on page 25 in the Spanish, it says everyone has a need to be touched. One of the most heartbreaking things that I've experienced in the year 2020 was when my son Oliver was born, when our son Oliver was born. Because it was in the early stages of this whole COVID nonsense. So when my wife gave birth, the first thing they told us was, Oliver is not going to be with you guys. We need to remove him and take him into the NICU. And we thought, okay, well, he went through a couple of complications, nothing major. So then when we would go visit him, they would tell us, whoa. You got to have gloves on. So for her, it was, okay, well, I'll put gloves on. I'll still be with my baby. But in me, it destroyed my love tank. Because my connection to my son was physical. I wanted to physically feel my boy and touch him. And every time I would have those gloves on and I would lay my hand, I would just begin to weep and just cry. Because I said, God, I'm not showing him the love that he deserves, that he needs. Because again, infants depend on the touch of their parents for the rest of their lives. Yeah. As they develop, they still need that touch. Even teenagers need the touch, parents. Even your teenagers, as much as they stop, no, mom, come on, don't kiss me. She's watching, please. As much as they fight and they do that, let's read that again. Everyone needs to be touched. Tell yourself, I need to be touched. And please don't take this as a sexual, in a sexual context. Often a touch is just like, hey, I'm here. Yes. This connection for somebody can mean everything. Rather than, hey, I'm here for you. Oh, okay, thank you. And there's a very vivid example that I want to share from our marriage, from our dating era. When we first became boyfriend and girlfriend, she quickly learned, yes, that's Oliver in the back. She quickly learned that my love language was physical touch. And I'm going to share my side, and I want her to share her side of this. So when we first got together, she quickly discovered that my love language was touch me. How? How did she quickly find out? Whenever we were in the car, I would look at her like, hello, my hand is not being held. Because I wanted to drive and hold her hand because I wanted to feel the touch. Yes, you can. Thank you. Thanks. Somebody out there knows how to do it. And this is what would happen. And I would always tell her because she'd be holding my hand, we'd be talking, and then she would abruptly take her hand off, check her phone, and answer something or do something, and I would tell her, excuse me. Because in my love tank, this symbol meant, okay, she loves me, she's touching me, she's not embarrassed to hold my hand. But the moment that she would do this, now in her psychology, because she's not a physical touch person, her manner of disengaging contact wasn't important. Because she was just going to answer, do something, and then re-engage. But to me, the separation in my psychology meant, oh, she's pushing me away. Now, that deals with a lot of other spiritual and emotional insecurities that have been dealt with, but that's part of our psychology when it comes to physical touch. And as our relationship progressed, she became exhausted every time we would go out. How did I know that she would become exhausted? Because the next time that we'd see each other, the initial response of embracing was a little bit less. Especially if, I'd see her on Friday, I'd see her Saturday, I'd see her Sunday morning, that emotional desire would lower because she'd be she'd be emotionally drained because before our relationship and that sense of touch was like a full-time job for her. Because she had to meet my needs. My always being next to me. So whenever we'd go and watch a movie somewhere, she knew that her spot was right next to me, as close as possible, but still room for Jesus in the middle. But I needed to feel that little sense of skin, or just have my arm around her, or just be, smothered with each other. For me, it was cake, a walk in the park. It was cake. It was easy. But for someone who's within their psychology is not physical touch and does not depend on the touch, it's emotionally exhausting. And that can also puncture the love tank, because instead of them also feeling love, they are draining their love tank, because in their emotional needs, they're not being met. And we have to be very sensitive as lovers, not lovers as in lovers, but lovers as in lovers. Follow me on that one? Lovers as in we love each other, as in friends, families, not lovers as in marriage, husband and wife. But then I discovered something within our relationship, that my responsibility when we got married, my responsibility was no longer to see her emotional love tank as a full-time job, because hers is as acts of service. And that's exhausting for me. Continually having to do all of these little things, for me, it's tiring. And I also viewed it as a full-time job. You want me to clean this, and then wash that, and then do this, and then do this, and then do that. I'm thinking, when do I have time for myself? But then I understood something. It's not a full-time job. It's my husbandly responsibility to meet the needs of my wife, emotionally, spiritually, and more importantly, her love tank. And I want you to share that aspect of our relationship with them from your perspective.
Sí, como él menciona, en mi caso no es que yo crecí en una familia que nadie nos tocábamos, todo lo contrario. Mis papás siempre han sido bien besucones, abrazones, apapachones, pero esto es un principio en el área de los lenguajes del amor. Cuando uno crece en una casa que tienen un amor específico, no quiere decir que tú eres ese amor o que tú vas a recibir de esa manera. Tal vez vas a aprender más fácil a corresponder ese amor porque lo conoces, porque lo has vivido, porque aprendiste o tuviste que aprenderlo. Si en tu casa era de los que acá reto echan porras, tú eres un campeón, eres excelente esto, vas a aprender el mismo vocabulario. A lo mejor no eres una persona que recibe con palabras, pero vas a aprender a hacerlo. En mi caso, mi familia siempre fue bien abrazona, así, ¿verdad? Normal. Yo nunca había conocido a una persona como Kevin. Nunca. Entonces, cuando me vengo de Victoria acá, pues resulta que aquí pues solo tenía pues la iglesia, mis conocidos, pero nunca en ese contexto de estarte constantemente apachurrando, abrazando, ¿verdad? Entonces, cuando me topo con él, yo ya se me había olvidado. En mi perspectiva, yo puedo durar mucho tiempo, semanas, sin que él, o sea, sin yo necesitar, no que no me guste, como él dijo, todos necesitamos toque, todos. Pero en mi mente no estoy deseando o no me estoy sintiendo no amada si él no me toca por 2 semanas. Estoy bien, normal, con que estemos quality time y con que estemos haciendo cosas juntos, por mí está bien. Yo tuve que aprender a ver esa necesidad de él, a saber que eso no es que él esté demandándome, es que literalmente esa es la forma en que él se siente amado por mí. Si yo, como él dice, esa es mi santa responsabilidad de esposa. Se escucha bien padre en inglés, en español se escucha feo. Pero es mi responsabilidad como su esposa, el saber su necesidad. No nada más proveer alimento, comida, no nada más tener limpia la casa. Yo sé que él tiene una necesidad personal que es constante y tuve que reaprender, te soy honesta. Tuve que aprender que él me enseñara las áreas que a él le gustan. Por ejemplo, para mí, un masaje sería excelente para mostrar amor, physical touch. Él odia masajes. Una clave que tú tienes que saber es tu esposo o tu esposa o la persona que estás relacionándote, él es o ella te va a ir indicando qué cosas le gustan y qué cosas literalmente ahí no toques. Te pasaste de la raya. Aún siendo esposo o esposa, aunque yo soy de él y él es mío, no quiere decir que todo el tiempo él puede estar tocando lo que él quiere. Si me doy a entender. Es un llevar ¿cómo se dice? El tiempo perfecto, el momento perfecto en donde tú te sientas cómodo dándote a esa persona. Igualmente, cuando yo sé que él quiere y está todo raro, yo me abordo, me enredo toda en él y yo sé que él va a sentir otra vez ese boost, por así decir. Entonces, esa es mi manera en que yo he aprendido poco a poco a responder esa necesidad en el área de toque. Y honestamente es cederte a ti mismo. Cederte a ti mismo, saber que tu cuerpo, pues ahora en el área de esposos, le pertenece a él y él a mí, ¿verdad? Y es algo bonito, pero en el área de relaciones, como decía ahorita Kevin, es importantísimo que sepamos tocar de la manera correcta y corresponder un buen toque a la otra persona.
There's a part where she mentioned, like, I personally, though I'm a physical touch enthusiast, even I myself have boundaries. Like she mentioned, if you ever grab me like here to give me some type of massage, for me, it's a hostile touch. I don't respond well. It pains me. It hurts me, right? My wife, one of the areas that she enjoys physical touch, guess what? Is massages. So in that aspect, I had to relearn that just because I don't receive love through that specific touch, she does. And then vice versa. For me, the greatest way for you to kind of touch me is if you just scratch me right in the middle of my back.
Yo no sabía hacer eso.
That's for me is key. Now, see, I grew up with a mom who would continuously scratch. And for me, that was the most wonderful way to receive love from my mother. Just simply scratching my back. So when I got married, I told her, "Can you scratch my back?" And she would go, "Sure." And I'm thinking, woman, scratch my back means that you scratch and you don't stop. But see, it took time to communicate our methods of interaction through physical touch. It took a time to discuss, look, this is what I like. When you do this, I don't appreciate it. For example, whenever we're just lying in bed, getting ready for bed, I'll sometimes tickle her. She hates being tickled. And I know that. So sometimes I do it on purpose just to kind of mess with her. But I know one area that if I want to upset her, I'm going to continue tickling her. For me, I'm showing love in that way, but for her, it's a hostile touch. So you have to be very mindful of the touches. Now, when you're dating somebody, when you're, in that special friendship or you're developing that special friendship, they won't tell you these things. Why? Because they want you to like them. But what I encourage you to do, teens and those that watch that aren't, that are still single, is vocally communicate. Hey, you know what? I actually don't like when you rub my back. That actually makes me feel a little bit weird. But if you want to, put your arm around me, yeah, I would love that. So vocalizing your needs and your likes and your dislikes is going to open up an avenue for true intimacy. Because the goal of all of this series and everything that's in your hands is for true intimacy. And I want to go down to section 3 in page 22. Here you go, honey, if you want to tell them. Which is the aspect of giving love. And I'm going to cover this briefly because I want to go into the practical section. There's, in the first paragraph of section 3, giving love through physical touch. That's on page what for the Spanish? 25. Page 25. There is a whole line in bold text that says, that does not mean that all touches are created equal. And I just want to drive that point home by saying this. Be very vigilant on how you touch those around you. How I touch my wife is our business. But how I touch, for example, my brother's wife, it's his business. See how he raised his fist right away? Why? Because my level of intimacy with my brother's wife has limits. I'm a married man, she's a married woman. But that doesn't mean that, I can't give her a hug, that I can't embrace her, or that I can't rub her, her pregnant belly. Because there's specific touches that are designed to show love to everybody. But there are also specific touches that are designed to show love within the confines of marriage. So all touches are not created equal. So you as a parent, you with kids, your touches, whether they want them or not, they have to be very, very intentional. Thank you. Just because you say, hey son, good job on today's game. Well, maybe he wanted more of like, wow, that was amazing. You did so, a more personalized, close encounter. So parents, don't be afraid to embarrass your children. Even if they don't want it, even if they get upset at you for it, believe me. I remember time and time again when my parents would, cheer me on during sports games and, they would hug me and I'd be like, oh, thanks. I remember that. Why? Because it taught me this lesson. They were not embarrassed of me because they touched me in public. They physically showed their love for me in front of others, and they weren't embarrassed about it. And what do we often sometimes do? Instead of giving a kiss, we're like, I love you, honey. Why? Because we're embarrassed. Or we give them a little side cheek kiss. But if you're not embarrassed of your spouse, oh, but what about physical displays of affection? What about it? If you want to show love, be intentional about it. All of these love languages, from quality time all the way to words of affirmation, the number one way to prove that you truly love that other person is to not be embarrassed to show them love. And that usually means publicly. But I don't feel comfortable. Doesn't matter how you feel. Because your objective is to fill the love tank of who? The other person. The other people in which you're trying to engage. And I want to do a little bit of a practice exercise here. I'm going to interject. This is not in your manuals. This is something that I wanted to kind of keep off the manual just because I wanted to develop this separately. So there are 3 basic levels of physical touch. If you have a pen, I want you to kind of insert this in there. Level 1, and I'll give you a couple seconds. I should give you a little bit of time to write this too. Get a pen. 3 basic levels of physical touch. The first level is level 1, which is basics. Level 2 is advanced, which deals more with hugging. And level 3 is intermediate, which deals more with smothering. And I'm going to go over all 3 of them, and we're going to exemplify all 3 of them. So again, you have the basic level, which is handshake. You have your more advanced level where you're like, oh, side hug. And then you have your intermediate where you're smothering, okay? Now, for me, I can do all those 3 with my wife. Piece of cake. But what happens when we take it out of marriage and we put it into our relationships? So who here does not think that they're physical touch? You're not physical touch, you're not physical touch, you're not physical touch. Who here thinks that they are physical touch? Okay, Marina, come here. Danny, come here. Sarah, come here. Ileana, come here. Leo, come here. Just up here. Don't worry about. Just up here. I'm not too worried about the camera. So they're all intermingled. So there's some that are, there's some that aren't. Sarah, are you physical touch? Marina, are you physical touch? Danny, you physical touch? Ileana, are you physical touch? Okay. So we have a yes, no, yes, no, yes. So funny, and I'm going to share this really, really briefly. Funny story about Ileana. There was one time where we were both in the back, and I was doing something on the computer, and my hand was here, and her hand was about here. I was just typing, and I accidentally touched her hand, and this was her response. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm sorry that I'm here. Jeez. So that made me realize this woman is nothing with physical touch. Nothing. But okay, so this is the exercise that I want to do. I want you to give Sarah a hug. Just give her a hug. Okay, pause. Notice what they did. Their physical body language was like this. And then the way that they communicated, okay, I'm done, was like, hey, I'm done, let go, I'm good. Okay? Now, I know that they're both not physical touch, right? So, like, for example, go give Danny a hug. From the start, he's not embarrassed. He said, give me a hug. I'll give him a hug. No problem. But see, when I asked them to, they were both like, really? Okay? Now, does that mean that they don't love each other? That just means that they have different needs. But then let me get Marina. Why don't you give Ileana a hug? Notice the body language. Notice the body language. From one side, this was her response. Yes, thank you, I get to hug somebody. The other response was, I'm about to be hugged, okay. So one response was, okay. Because notice, she was here, Marina was over there. Marina said, yes. Ileana said, let me prepare for what's about to happen. Okay? Now, and notice that they're all women. They're supposed to be like, oh, yeah. But see, even within them, their psychology has specific levels. Ileana would be a level -1, which means no touch. Marina is a level 3 because she enjoys being smothered. Sarah's more of a level 1 because she'll hug you, and then she'll be like, okay, thank you. But now let's get, for example, Sarah. Danny, why don't you give Danny a hug? Again, notice the body language. Sarah, this was Sarah. This was Sarah's response. She's here and she goes, and then Danny said, okay, I'm going to give her a hug. But Sarah's response is hug, and then tap, tap, tap means I'm done, I'm out. Now, how do I know that the tap means let go of me? I learned that from her. Because, come here, honey. Right here in the middle. Because when we first met, I wanted to show her that I liked her, so I would hug her like this. And we were just friends. Her response was, and she would tell me, okay, and she'd slowly start pulling away. So I began to realize, oh, she feels what? Uncomfortable with my display of love. Thank you, honey. Now, often here again, and we have these different levels. Now, well, why don't you go give Leo a hug? Now, body language. It's a grown woman and a almost teenage boy. One, his body language is, because I enjoy the contact, doesn't matter if it's a big guy or if it's a woman, I want the contact. His body language, and it's great that he's a young kid that enjoys being loved through physical touch. That's awesome. But there's people that no matter how young they are, grown, they're older, their response is always going to be, okay, let me prepare for that contact. They get a little bit uncomfortable. Why do I use these cases? Because we have to understand that even though she is no touch, no contact, if she wants to show love to somebody that is, her responsibility is to say, I need to love them in their way. Now me, I could give all of them a hug and I'm good. I love hugging people. I'm a hugger. But within these three levels, we have to learn to operate. To what? Operate, which means we have to know how to do it. Just because she's not about physical touch and Danny is, the responsibility of her to go give Danny a hug. So go give Danny a hug. Don't move, Danny, don't move. Okay, now hold. Notice, this is what I want you guys to look at. Don't worry, Martha. Don't worry, I'm on it. Just kidding. Okay, hold on. Pause. Let her breathe a little bit. I'm just kidding. Okay. Notice, when she hugged him, he responded to her level. How so? But see, he's a level 3. She's a level -1. But what did he do? Instead of him bringing her to his level, in other words, meeting his emotional need, he met her emotional need. So for him, it actually causes a puncture to his love tank because he feels uncomfortable. Why? Because she feels uncomfortable. So that's why I told her, okay, now you have to go that way. Because if I tell him, okay, you two hug, Danny's going to take the first step. So why don't you give Leo a hug? And hold him. See, they don't mind. For them, it's natural. It's good. They're receiving love. But then if I tell Sarah, go give Marina a hug, stop. You see it. Marina's instinct, because she's a level 3, her instinct is, let me go. But I said, Sarah, give you a hug. So I'm gonna pull you back. I'm gonna tie you down. So you, Sarah, you now embrace. Now, hold. Because she's not, she's a level 1, between level 1 and level 2. When she shows the physical touch, it's real, it's authentic. She communicates comfort for a period of time. But eventually she goes, okay, it's getting a little warm. Marina, you're getting a little too comfy here. Okay, you can release her. I'm sweating a little bit. But see, for Marina, notice how she has no issue with let me just get a little bit deeper in there. But Sarah's like, okay, this is just crossing so many lines for me. Thank you. Let's give them all a round of applause. Within these 3 levels. Now notice what Sarah just did. She goes to Danny and her first response is, why? Because everyone needs to be touched. Whether you enjoy physical touch as your primary or you have 0% physical touch, everyone needs that sense of, because again, not all touches are equal. And the person in which you can have that connection with matters. Yes. That's why, let's say if Brian was sitting next to Sarah, Sarah would not have gone to Brian and gone, oh my gosh, Brian, that was exhausting. No. Because she has an intimate relationship with Danny, she has that level of comfort. And we have to understand that within these 3 levels, we have to realize it's not about me and how I feel. So this is what I want us to do. Put your binders on the side, put everything aside. We're going to do a little exercise here, a live action exercise, and then we'll get on to covering some more content. Robin, we're going to hold you there because sometimes you're a little too much. You can hug the camera. Robin. I want everyone to just stand up. Just stand up. Okay. First response, find one person and give them a hug. Just quickly. Boom, find one person, give them a hug. Okay. Now pause. Everyone pause. Stay with the person you hugged. Okay. Now, the person...
Give a hug.
Oh, they're teenagers. They don't respond all too well. Unless you have somebody. I see. It's okay. Ileana, tranquila. It's okay. I have it under control. Now, I want everyone to just meet my eyes. So meet me over here and come this way. So everyone look over here and look at these 2 examples. we have husband and wife, and we have boyfriend and girlfriend. I thought Sarah was not physical touch. I thought that she didn't like to be held. But see, again, the person matters. Now, if we look on this side, we see mother and son. They can stay there all day. Why? Because they love each other. But then we see over here Martha and Ileana. Ileana's what is she doing slowly, little by little, right? And then we see the two kids. They don't mind. I'm good, I'm comfortable. It's all good. And then we see Danny and Ethan. Danny's comfortable. Ethan's freaking out. Okay. Now let go of that person. Now you are not allowed to hug that person again. So now I want you to go find somebody else and give them a hug. Anybody else, anybody. In the next 5, 4, 3, 2, 2.5. Go. Oh, yeah, go for it. 1 and 0. Okay, hold them. Sandra, hold them. It's okay. Okay. All right. So look over here. Look at me. I'm going to use them. We have Jorge and we have Marina. Marina's all the touch. Yeah, she's comfortable. She's even on her tippy toes saying yes. Jorge is thinking, what do I do? But see, now, this type of relationship within our structure should be normal. They should not feel uncomfortable. Why? Because there is no malice behind the embrace. Then we look at Danny and Brian. They can hug each other normally, like you would normally hug. They can hug each other, and there is no sense of, okay, dude, this is getting a little weird, man. We're two men. There's no uncomfortable feeling. So now take the next 5 seconds and find somebody else to hug. You cannot repeat the person. Quickly. Somebody go hug Nono, please. Nono's just in the back hiding. Somebody go hug him. Okay. Now we have Ileana and Brenda. Cuidado con ese. So this is what I want you. So make sure that you're still making the contact. Make sure you're still always make contact. When you as a person understand that making the contact, it's nothing to do. If you're a physical touch person, you're gonna love it. But if the other person is physical touch and you're not, the contact for them means everything. It's all they want. This touch, whether it's friends, family, married couples, mothers, daughters, or parents, siblings, even brothers. I never saw Mikkel hug Christian. I would have loved to have seen that. But see, the thing is we have to normalize physical touch. In general. All right, so give the person you're hugging one last squeeze, and then you guys can go back to your seats. And I'm gonna give out a couple of little things that I want to point out, and then I'm gonna let you go home. See. Now Robin is about to pass out because nobody hugged him. So after service, can you guys just show him some love? Make sure that he feels appreciated. We love you, Robin. Thank you for covering the camera. But I wanna point out a couple of things, and I'm gonna I want my wife to share a really good example that she has. Notice, some of you didn't leave your section. Well, actually, the majority of you stayed in your section. Danny went from his go-to girl to his go-to friend. Why wasn't his response, let me go all the way over here and hug Melissa? Because, if his love language is not physical touch, that's fine. But the exercise was to go find someone that you hug. Now, my hope was to be everyone intermingling. But what I saw was, for example, Marina, who is physical touch, she had no problem going to Jorge. Why? Because for her, the contact is what matters. For someone that is not physical touch like Sarah, she needs the secure type of touch. The type of person that she already knows. That she already knows that if I touch, it's going to be love, it's not going to be hostile. That if I touch, it's going to be comforting, it's not going to be awkward. Mm-hmm. So next time that you're here in church and we open up this space to go and hug your neighbor, take that into mind. Should I always hug the person next to me? Or how about I start displaying physical acts of love, physical touch to somebody that I've never even hugged before? So have that with you, and I want my wife to share this really, really good example that she has.
Este fue un perfecto ejemplo de lo que significa una iglesia saludable, una familia saludable. En una familia saludable necesita haber palabras de afirmación, necesita haber actos de servicio, necesita haber quality time y ¿sabes qué? Necesita haber physical touch, necesita haber abrazos, necesita haber aquí estoy para ti o cuenta conmigo. Es bien importante que hagamos esto más a menudo intencionalmente, no cuando te acuerdes, sino con la intención de hacerlo, con la intención de amar a alguien. Sepas o no sepas cuál es su lenguaje de amor, nuestra responsabilidad es amar a nuestro prójimo. Punto. Entonces, y este ejemplo que voy a dar es un ejemplo que es de una pareja, un matrimonio. Se los voy a leer porque es bien importante todo el detalle, todo el contexto que tiene, ¿ok? Y dice: durante los primeros años de su matrimonio habían tenido grandes dificultades, pero cuando eran novios, 22 años antes, todos sus amigos decían que ellos eran la pareja perfecta. Pete y Pasty creían ciertamente que su relación había sido hecha en el cielo. Habían crecido en la misma comunidad, habían crecido en la misma iglesia, graduado en la misma escuela. Sus padres tenían los mismos valores, los mismos estilos de vida. Pete y Pasty disfrutaban mucho de las mismas cosas. A ambos les gustaba jugar tenis, pasear en bote. A menudo hablaban de cuánto interés tenían en común. Parecían tener todas las cosas en común. Así que garantizaba por mucho que no hubiera conflictos en el matrimonio. Eso pensaban. Comenzaron a salir juntos en el último año de la secundaria. Asistieron a distintas universidades, pero buscaban la forma para verse por lo menos una vez al mes, más a menudo. A fin del primer año, estaban convencidos de que habían sido hechos el uno para el otro. Y entonces terminaron 3 años después casándose. Teniendo un noviazgo. Un fin de semana él visitaría la universidad de ella. El siguiente fin de semana ella visitaría la universidad del otro. La cuestión es que pasaban la mayoría del tiempo juntos. La 4ª semana del mes habían estado acordando no verse, dándose tiempo el uno al otro para dedicarse a sus propios intereses, con excepción de acontecimientos especiales como cumpleaños, etc. 2 meses más tarde se mudaron a Florida, donde Pete le habían ofrecido un buen trabajo. Estaba a 3,000 kilómetros de su pariente más cercano. Ellos pudieron disfrutar de una luna de miel para siempre. Los 3 primeros meses fueron emocionantes y de mucho movimiento, buscando un apartamento y gozando la vida juntos. El único conflicto que recuerdan era por lavar los platos. Pete creía que sabía exactamente cómo hacer bien esta tarea. Patsy, sin embargo, no estaba de acuerdo con su manera de hacerlo. Luego se habían puesto de acuerdo en cualquiera de lavar los platos lo haría de manera con la que deseaban el conflicto. Como finalmente expresó. Y finalmente expresó sus sentimientos de qué es lo que sentía. En pocas palabras, Patsy que tenían esa dificultad entre ellos y no le agradaba la respuesta que hacía cuando se daban eso. Entonces, como él trabajaba todo el tiempo, Patsy decidió hacer amigas en el departamento. A veces cuando salía, Pete iba a trabajar hasta muy tarde. Se iba de compras con unas amigas, a veces directamente de la casa después de su trabajo. Y a él le irritaba grandemente a causa de ser, a Pete, y Pete llegaba hasta en la noche. Y eso le irritaba constantemente el matrimonio, porque cuando ella venía, él no estaba. Cuando él llegaba, ella no estaba. Entonces constantemente fue haciendo un crash en su matrimonio. A lo que Pete responde a gritos. Y ella le dice, ¿qué quieres que haga? Ni siquiera estás aquí cuando llego y todo el tiempo quieres que esté aquí y no me llamas cuando regresas. Y él le respondía, sí, pero tú tienes que estar aquí cuando yo llego. Y ella le decía, pero ¿cuándo voy a saber cuándo llegas? Si todo el día estás en el trabajo, nunca estás aquí, me quieres nada más estar encerrada. Y él le dice, yo necesito una esposa. ¿No entiendes? Eso es todo. Yo necesito una esposa. Pero Patsy no entendía. Estaba muy confundida. Buscando una respuesta, fue a la biblioteca pública y revisó todos los libros sobre matrimonio. Se supone que el matrimonio no debe ser así, ella razonaba. Tengo que encontrar una respuesta para nuestra situación. Cuando Pete entraba al cuarto de la computadora, Patsy tomaba su libro. Leía hasta medianoche. Cuando se iba a acostar, Pete la veía y hacía comentarios sarcásticos como, si hubiera leído tanto en la universidad, hubiera sacado las mejores calificaciones. A lo que Patsy respondía, pero no estoy en la universidad, estoy en el matrimonio. Y me contento con la calificación más baja. Pete se acostaba dándole una mirada así como sin decir nada. Al final del primer año, Patsy estaba desesperada. Yo lo había mencionado antes, pero en esta ocasión calmadamente dijo a Pete, voy a buscar un consejero matrimonial. ¿Quieres venir conmigo? Pero Pete respondió, no, yo no necesito un consejero matrimonial. Yo no necesito tiempo para un consejero. Yo no, ni siquiera necesito pagarle a alguien para que me diga qué hacer. Ok, entonces iré sola, dijo Patsy. Muy bien, tú eres la necesitada. Tú sí necesitas consejos, de todos modos. Y terminó la conversación. Patsy se sintió completamente sola, pero la siguiente semana hizo una cita con el consejero matrimonial. Después de 3 sesiones, el consejero llamó a Pete y le preguntó si quería venir a conversar. Pete aceptó y el proceso de sanidad comenzó. 6 meses más tarde salían de la oficina del consejero con un nuevo matrimonio. Entonces el autor del libro les pregunta a este matrimonio, bueno, ¿qué fue lo que aprendieron en consejería que cambió su matrimonio de tal manera? En esencia, doctor, dijo Pete, aprendimos a hablar el lenguaje del amor del otro. ¿Cuál era tu lenguaje de amor, Pete? Él le preguntó y él dice, contacto físico. Y el contacto físico con toda seguridad, dijo Patsy. ¿Y el tuyo, Patsy? Tiempo de calidad. Es lo que pedía a gritos en los días cuando pasaba todo su tiempo con su trabajo y con la computadora. ¿Cómo supo que era contacto físico el lenguaje de amor de Pete? Me llevó un tiempo, dijo Patsy. Es lo que iba comprendiendo a través de la consejería. Al principio creo que Pete ni siquiera se daba cuenta de esto. Ella tenía razón. Estaba tan seguro en mi propio sentido del valor personal que nunca hubiera podido identificar ni reconocer que la falta de contacto suyo me había separado de ella. Nunca le dije que quería ser acariciado, aun cuando en mi interior ansiaba que llegara y me tocara. En nuestro noviazgo siempre había tomado yo la iniciativa de besarla, yo la iniciativa de abrazarla, estrechar manos y demás. Y ella siempre había sido muy recíproca. Tal vez por sus nuevas responsabilidades en el trabajo, estaba demasiado cansada y últimamente no lo hacía. No sé, pero tomé como algo personal, dijo Pete. Sentí que ella no me encontraba atractivo. Fíjate lo que puede hacer un toque. Me sentía rechazado por ella. Así que esperé a ver cuánto tardaría en que me diera un beso, una caricia o tuviéramos una relación sexual. Una ocasión esperé hasta 6 semanas antes de que ella me tocara. Era algo insoportable. Mi alejamiento era para permanecer lejos del dolor que sentía cuando estaba con ella. Me sentía tan rechazado y no querido y no amado. Entonces Patsy respondió, yo no tenía idea que eso tú sentías. Sabía que estaba lejos de mí, no nos besábamos ni nos abrazábamos como lo hacíamos antes, pero suponía que como ya estábamos casados, eso ya no era tan importante para él. Sabía que estaba bajo presión por su trabajo y no tenía ni idea de que él quería que yo tomara la iniciativa. Él tenía razón. Pasaban semanas sin que yo lo tocara. No se me pasaba por la mente. Preparaba las comidas, limpiaba la casa, lavaba, trataba de permanecer fuera de su camino, porque pensaba ella que eso lo haría sentir bien. Francamente no sabía qué más podía hacer. No podía entender su alejamiento ni su falta de atención hacia mí. En verdad, no me importaba si me besaba o me abrazaba. Si me daba su atención, entonces sí me sentía amada. Llevó algún tiempo descubrir la raíz del problema, agregó ella. Pero una vez que descubrimos que no estábamos llenando las necesidades de amor del otro, comenzamos a cambiar las cosas. Tomé la iniciativa de dar el contacto físico y fue sorprendente lo que sucedió. Su personalidad y su espíritu cambió drásticamente. Tenía un nuevo esposo. Cuando se convenció de que realmente lo amaba, fue más recíproco a mis necesidades. ¿Vieron ese ejemplo? Iba un matrimonio a punto de quebrar. Todo por no entender el uno al otro, por no satisfacer, en vez de llenarse uno al otro el tanque, lo que hacían era ponchar su tanque. Ok, hasta que no te acerques a mí, yo no te lo doy. Pues si no te quieres acercar, yo me alejo más de ti. Y eso provocaba que más y más se separaran. Así que esto es un material que si tú lo tomas con toda la intención de hacerlo tuyo, puedes salvar matrimonios, puedes salvar relaciones y puedes salvar tener una vida sana el uno con el otro. ¿Me reciben? Yes.
I want to jump to page 24 of the English manual. Thank you, honey, for that. And page 27. No, that's my copy. 27 in the Spanish, 24 in the English. We're going to go into section 5. I strongly encourage you to read the physical touch section continuously. And if you have questions, I'd love to be able to, guide you through it. But for the sake of time, I'm going to go to section 5. Because I think it's important for us to know the positive and negative attributes of the love language. The positive attributes of people who receive love through physical touch can be, but are not limited to, the first one is approachable. Like we saw here, when you are a person that receives love and, in its physical touch all the way, you are approachable, meaning that your natural presence brings people towards you. You're not afraid of new interactions. You're not afraid of somebody crossing your personal space bubble. You're like, yeah, how are you? How's it going? You're approachable. It's a very good thing. You tend to be very reassuring. How do you reassure? Hey, it's going to be okay. You bring them into your level of assurance of that safe space. You are comforting, very similar to reassuring, and you are supportive. Often people fail to bring support to somebody in need because they don't provide the support that they're needing. We tell them, it's going to be okay, Wendy. You're going to get through it. God's with you. Yeah, that sounds great, but what they wanted was, it's going to be okay. That connection, that supportive touch is what they need. And you also tend to be a very romantic person. I'll leave that for your imagination. You know how to express physical love to your spouse. And then the negative aspect, and I know this from personal experience. When you are a person that is a physical love enthusiast, you often do not respect people's boundaries. You can be space invaders, where you draw to people a little bit too close, providing a little bit of discomfort. So be careful to not invade people's space in that way. They tend to be very handsy. Because you enjoy the contact, that sense of always wanting to lay hands on somebody, for you may be natural and it can be something fine, but for the other person, it can bring discomfort and a little bit of awkward situations. You can be overbearing, which means, when you just touch somebody too much and you're continuously touching and touching and touching. And then the fifth negative attribute is you can be overly sexual. Again, within the confines of marriage, too much touching can always lead to discomfort and displeasing situations. Amen? In the practical tips, I encourage you to read them in detail. I want to take the last couple of minutes to walk you through the process of taking, because tonight we're taking our love test today. We're going to figure out what our love language is. So because we are finishing on Sunday, we're going to wrap it up with this week. So if you turn to the last page of your manual, so if you take your manual, the English is page 35, Spanish,
38.
page 38. Yes, no, it's online, no? Oh, awesome. Okay, so the process is very simple. All you need is, your phone. If you have the ability to do it now, do it now. If you have to do it at home, that's fine. So if you go to www.5lovelanguages.com/quizzes, it's going to link you automatically to the quiz page, and it's going to open it up for you. ¿Sí?
Nada más en tu celular escribe la web que dice ahí, el link, 5lovelanguages.com/quizzes. ¿Ok? Y tú puedes seleccionar ahí las diferentes selecciones, si quieres abrirlo en tu celular.
And once you've gone ahead and done this, there's 4 different categories that it's going to ask you. There's the married category, teenager, single, and then the kids. So if you just simply have to find your own category. So if you're a single person, meaning you're not married, you want to take the singles quiz. If you're a teenager, take the teenager quiz. I think there's only a couple kids in here. So if you kids want to also take the quizzes, you can take it after your parents. And then there's obviously the married quiz as well. Sí, it should be. Okay. Once you simply find the quiz that you're going to take, this process, it's going to go through a couple of questions. You just have to answer the questions. Again, if you want to download the app, you don't have to download it. You can just go to get started. But I want to give you a couple of minutes. I'm going to explain what I want you to do on your actual manual, okay? So the process will take anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, just depending on you and your responses, okay? So at the end of your process of taking the love language quiz, I want you to write down your primary love language on your actual notebook. If you can get that on the slide, Danny. There's a section where it says your primary love language is, and you're going to write down what your primary love language is. And then you'll notice that there's different percentages for each one, because the quiz will tell you, your 5% words of affirmation, your 10% gifts. But before anyone starts the quiz, this is the mindset that I want you to have. You are responding based off of how you would respond in that scenario. Not how you want to show love, but how you receive love. Okay? You follow me on that? You wanna say it in Spanish? Huh?
es importante que respondas el quiz cómo a ti te gusta recibir amor, no cómo a ti te gusta darlo, cómo te gusta recibir amor, ¿ok? Cada pregunta que tú leas, tienes que pensar, ¿me gusta a mí o no me gusta? Más o menos, ¿ok?
All right, so we're going to leave this open time for the next 5 to 10 minutes for you to take your quiz, and then we will reconvene in a few minutes. Creo que ya varios ya están acabando, unos minutitos más. Igual cuando acaben, lo escriben en su manual. Is anybody surprised? A little bit confused, like, whoa, wait a minute. Okay. Mikel, ¿ya acabaste, Mikel? Okay. Yo, vamos a compartir el mío y luego el de Wendy, nada más para que vean cómo es esto. Y si todavía están en el estudio, sigan, yo nomás lo voy a explicar y luego ya. En mis resultados, yo soy Physical Touch 37%, Words of Affirmation 10%, Acts of Service 10%, Receiving Gifts 20%, Quality Time 23%. Okay. En mi caso, como yo he tomado este examen ya varias veces, yo ya sabía que mis tres más altas es Physical Touch, Quality Time and Gifts.
El mío es Acts of Service 33, Receiving Gift 7, Physical Touch 17, Words of Affirmation 17 y Quality Time 27. So, yo soy Act of Service y Quality Time.
Y ahora, la razón por qué queremos que esté aquí es para que, tú sepas exactamente cómo tú recibes amor y ahora sabes las áreas que tú tienes que practicar dando el amor. Como les dije, para mí yo recibo amor a través de actos de servicio solo el 10%, pero mi esposa es triple, 33%. Así que el área donde yo tengo que trabajar es acts of service. Así que si tienes cónyuge, tienes tarea. Si quieres estar en una relación, practica estos hábitos, haz esto un hábito en ti, practicando, mostrando el amor. Así que al cerrar, comparten con todos. Si quieren, tomen screenshot, mándalo a alguien. Mira, yo soy esto, yo con razón soy esto. O tal vez dices, wow, yo no sabía que yo realmente sí era acts of service or quality time. Amén. Muchas gracias, iglesia, por estar en esta noche y vamos a estar cerrando este domingo el último lenguaje del amor. Nos vemos domingo de mañana. En bendición, iglesia.